Since entering the industry in 1987, voice actress Tara Strong has played various fun and memorable roles, from cute babies and troublemaking kids to heroes and villainesses.
I could finally feel the loveless void inside of me.
But of all these roles, which ones are the most pure and which ones are the most wicked? Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Tara Strong Characters, Good to Evil. For this list, we're only going to be focusing on Tara Strong's animated television roles. We're not going to be looking at anything theatrical. The only exceptions are films connected to a TV show, such as Rugrats or My Little Pony. Additionally, we won't be looking at any video game roles either. So sorry to all the fans of Lollipop Chainsaw. With those details out of the way, let's get started. As usual, we'll be starting with the sweetest, the most pure and heroic characters, and working our way down. These characters are the good. For our gold medal of good, we're ranking Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. Tara Strong has played two animated versions of Batgirl, first in the new Batman Adventures and then in the Lauren Faust version of DC Superhero Girls. Focusing on the former version, Barbara is a determined and noble hero. She first dons the cape and cowl after her father, Commissioner Gordon, is framed by Two-Face. But even after this case is solved, Barbara continues being Batgirl, wanting to clean up Gotham's crime as much as her father and Bruce Wayne. Barbara believes the good she does as Batgirl is worth the potential risk to herself and her father. She's also more open to teamwork than Batman, willing to team up with her friend Kara, aka Supergirl. In the 2019 Superhero Girl series, Barbara is more hyperactive, as she's more of a Batman fangirl. However, this doesn't take away from her heroic nature. After their not-so-great hero debut, it was Babs that encouraged the other superhero girls to give being a team another shot, and telling them not to give up. And she's had other heroic moments in the series. Although she was a bit reluctant about it, Babs let herself get embarrassed at an assembly if it meant protecting the future. It makes sense in context. She once fought off the assassin Deathstroke to protect her father. Then, in the Season 2 premiere, Barbara gave up her dream of being Batman's sidekick so she can stay with her friends and help a downtrodden Robin. Although Barbara may not always be the most mature hero, she's still intelligent, brave, and caring. These qualities allow her to stand out as her own hero, rather than just another member of the Bat family. Getting our silver medal of good is Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. As the joy and laughter of the team, it's Bubbles that brings the sweetness to the Powerpuff Girls. She can also be kind, especially to animals. She can also be the biggest pacifist of the team, and although she doesn't shy away from a fight, she's the most willing to talk down a monster. She also loves her family and pushes herself to face her fears if it means helping them. She pushed through her embarrassment of wearing glasses, and she conquered her fears of the boogeyman to take out his disco ball. In terms of flaws, she can be ditzy as well as naive. This can lead to her being manipulated by villains like him. Bubbles can be pretty over-emotional, and this leads to her biggest flaw, her anger. Although rare, when Bubbles gets angry, she can be even more vicious and violent than Buttercup. This was of course seen in the fan-favorite episode, Bubble Vicious. Thankfully, this rage isn't seen too often, allowing Bubbles to keep her title of nicest and sweetest Powerpuff Girl. Our bronze medal of good goes to Raven from Teen Titans. Although she's part demon and uses dark magic, Raven is far from evil. For all the brooding and sarcastic quips, Raven is very mature. She gives advice to others and even comforts them. This was seen with Cyborg after his car was wrecked, and Beast Boy after he went all aggro. Though she has to control her demon side, Raven is known for staying cool and calm, even in desperate situations. She can also be protective of her friends. We also saw her protective of Melvin, Timmy Tantrum, and Teether when she had to babysit them. As for her accomplishments as a hero, Raven was eventually able to defy her destiny and save the world instead of destroying it, defeating her father Trigon once and for all. But much like the previous superhero, Raven can have trouble with her temper. This again ties into her demon side. Given how young she is, we can't blame her too much for occasionally losing control. Raven is potentially the most ruthless of the Titans. Villains like Dr. Light were severely traumatized or nearly dead after angering her. Still, Raven is not heartless. No matter how emotionless she may seem, she is still a hero. Following her is Alana from the cult classic Symbionic Titan. As the sole heir to the Galaluna throne, Alana is a symbol of hope and happiness for her people. This goes well with her love of wanting to see people be happy, as well as her caring nature. Although she can be outspoken, she believes in following the rules and is honest, which doesn't exactly help with her popularity status. Although Alana can get jealous of Lance for being more popular than her, thankfully she never lets it get to her head. Although more of a defensive force on the battlefield, Alana believes in righteousness. She will fight for as long as she needs to in order to correct a wrong. She was willing to give up a date with Jason, a boy she really liked, so she can do her duty and fight with Lance. Despite her well intentions, Alana is naive, especially when it comes to being a human high school student. She can hold grudges as well, like when she got fed up with Lance's recklessness and training methods. Still, Alana is quite far from being malicious, and it's easy to see why she's considered the heart of the Symbionic Titan trio. Next is Twilight Sparkle. Twilight had quite the character arc, going from a bookworm and magic student to one of the greatest heroes that Equestria's ever known. While her official element may be magic, Twilight has shown time and again that she has many positive traits. She can be caring and kind, even to those who hurt her. She's willing to do what it takes to save her friends, even if it means sacrificing herself. Although she's fought many foes, Twilight is brave and doesn't cower, even against someone who may be stronger than her.
We need to get that bell and get Discord and the princesses their magic back.
Through her actions, she was able to help Princess Luna, Sunset Shimmer, Starlight Glimmer, Princess Cadance, and many others. She teaches people like the Cutie Mark Crusaders and the students of her school. This shows she cares about passing on the skills and lessons that she's learned throughout her time in Ponyville. However, as noble and good as Twilight can be, she has flaws. Although being focused on a goal is usually a good thing, Twilight sometimes takes this focus to an extreme. She's been known to freak out when panicked, be oblivious to the needs and feelings of others, and take scheduling and over-planning to the next level. She may not be perfect, but perfectionist describes her well. One time, Twilight freaked out so badly about not having a lesson to report to Princess Celestria.
Do you know what teachers do to students who don't pass?
So she created her own friendship problem, leading to ponies fighting over her old Smarty Pants doll. It can also be hard for Twilight to let go of her biases, like when she didn't want to give Trixie a second chance. She also tried to steal the magic pearl from the hippogriffs in the movie. Although she was desperate at that point, it was still a bad call. But for as many mistakes that Twilight's made over the years, she's still willing to learn from them and do better next time, and we think that's admirable. Next is Ben Tennyson. Tara only played the first incarnation of Ben and didn't return to voice the teen or adult versions of him, so we're only going to discuss Ben's character from the original Ben 10 series. It took Ben time to grow into his role as a hero.
Still can't get this thing off.
Although he was able to get there, he started off childish and cocky, even when things were dangerous. Eventually, it was revealed that Ben used humor as a coping mechanism to mask his fears and do what he needed to do to save people. At his heart, Ben is heroic, caring, and always willing to save others. He loves being the wielder of the Omnitrix, not just because he gets to have cool powers, but because it allows him to help others and be a hero. Being a young kid can be hard for him to retain the lessons he learns. Ben will occasionally use his powers for personal gain, such as getting revenge on bullies or cheating at a game. Thankfully, Ben doesn't do this too often and would never seriously hurt or kill someone innocent with his powers. He's even willing to give second chances to people like Kevin 11. Considering the hero that Ben grew up to be, as well as being able to do amazing things, while being kinda goofy, we're willing to overlook a few of his flaws. Following him is another princess, Unikitty. In the Unikitty TV series, this kitty is all about having fun. She wants everyone in her kingdom to be as happy as she is. She's supportive, especially with people like her little brother Puppycorn. Unikitty once put Puppycorn in charge when he wanted to know what it was like to be a prince. In another episode, she traveled to Frown Town to get his birthday wish back. Even with enemies like Master Frown, Unikitty still treats them with kindness and will offer them friendship. However, her tendency to help others can backfire. One of the biggest examples was when she wanted to make Richard happy enough to create Sparkle Matter, despite Richard saying that he was fine. This was disastrous. Additionally, like many other Tower Strong characters, Unikitty has an angry side. Thankfully, she's able to accept this part of herself and is usually able to keep her rage under control. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for her more wacky and hyperactive tendencies, which can cause a lot of trouble and chaos for the kingdom. Unikitty isn't malicious when she causes trouble. She's just a ditz. At her core, she wants everyone to be happy, and even if she can't always accomplish this, we still have to respect her for trying. Next is Omi from Xiaolin Showdown. Wielding the element of water, Omi is one of the Xiaolin warriors. Although he's seen as one of the most talented and cheerful characters in the series, he can also be pretty naive and egotistical at times. In fact, this ego and narcissism is his worst trait. As the series went on, he grew to be arrogant, prideful, and even condescending. We should also mention that he was initially sexist to Kimiko when they first met. However, this was because he learned about women through an 11th century sociology book. Thankfully, this trait didn't stick around, and Omi was able to, at the very least, develop empathy and change some of his views. Although some may see him as an egotistical brat, Omi has some outstanding traits. These include having a strong code of honor, a strong sense of duty, and his tendency to see the good in everyone, even people like Jack Spicer and Chase Young. Omi was willing to banish himself from the Xiaolin Temple when he was made to believe that he would become an evil overlord in the future. Later on, he puts his ego aside and is happy for Raimundo when Raimundo becomes the leader of the Xiaolin Dragons. Though Omi still has a lot of room to grow, he's still a good kid at heart. Next is Ingrid Third from Disney's Fillmore. Like Fillmore, Ingrid is a former delinquent who's changed, and now helps stop other delinquent kids by being part of the school's safety patrol. Thanks to her photographic memory, Ingrid is the smartest kid at X Middle School. Although initially cold and aloof, it didn't take Ingrid long to make a name for herself once Fillmore convinced her to help him. While she may seem like a typical, unfeeling goth, Ingrid can be sympathetic to people.
I don't think Thelonious is gonna eat that much.
She gave Fillmore a book on grieving after his goldfish died. She almost allowed a suspect to escape because she sympathized with them, understanding their stress regarding the SATI-9 test. Ingrid also went undercover when she joined the rogue Girl Scout troop, the Red Robins. Although she grew close to the girls, she was strong enough to stay loyal to the safety patrol. She was able to bring them to justice for the stealing and sabotaging the group did. While she may not have always been a good kid, Ingrid showed that it was never too late to make a change for the better. Up next is the first of Tara's baby characters, Poof. If you grew up watching Nickelodeon in the early to mid-2000s, we're sure that you remember how big of an event this character's birth was. These days, Poof symbolizes the start of the show's decline in quality. While that may be the case, it wouldn't be fair to say that Poof has no redeeming traits. Although young and thus naive, Poof can be kind and sweet. In one of his best moments, he became a surrogate son for Crocker, making Crocker happy, if only for a day. Still, while he had to go back home, Poof made sure that Crocker still had a son when he magically repaired the Crockbot 9000. Also, Poof fought off the Eliminators during the Wishology special. At his age, while he may take after his father in terms of personality, he thankfully seems to have his mother's intelligence. Additionally, while he may feud with his anti-fairy counterpart, Foop, Poof still offered him friendship after Foop apologized for trying to destroy him. We aren't sure what Poof would have been like as an adult fairy, but we have a feeling that he would have been a great one. Next is Dill Pickles. Much like Poof, Dill's addition to the cast of Rugrats was certainly seen as controversial. It didn't help that he was annoying and troublesome, not having the ability to talk like the other babies. He drooled over things, hit people with his rattle, and threw tantrums when upset. Of course, this isn't evil, it's just normal baby behavior, but we can understand why audiences were annoyed. Thankfully, Dill has good qualities, in that while he may be a bother, he still loves his big brother Tommy. He becomes much more likable in the spin-off series, All Grown Up. In that show, Dill is the weird kid, having many strange interests and having strong beliefs in aliens as well as the supernatural. Although strange, Dill is friendly to others. He helped Cupid in the Valentine's episode. He also didn't give up on Tommy when Tommy lost his confidence in filmmaking, even helping him regain it. There was also the time where Dill ran himself ragged by making inventions for Tommy and his friends to sell. He did this so that they could have money to get concert tickets, even though Dill was running out of ideas and losing sleep over it.
Don't give me that look. I'm having serious inventor's block here.
While we had to drop him a couple of notches for his not-so-great moments in the original series, Dill makes up for these moments when he grows up a little bit. Wrapping up the good is one of Tara's most well-known characters, Timmy Turner. Timmy walks that fine line between selfish and selfless. This isn't too much of a surprise since he's a kid. Still, when you've got magic at your disposal, you should maybe be less reckless. Just a thought. Anyway, Timmy has made hundreds of wishes, and a lot of them has been made to benefit people like his fairies, his family, and his friends. His wishes range from giving his parents superpowers so they wouldn't be so tired, to helping his friends, to rescuing Chip Skylar's teeth, and helping the Crimson Chin, to giving his godparents the baby that they wanted.
I wish Cosmo and Wanda would have a baby!
He's selfish, but Timmy wants the people he cares about to be happy. He will sacrifice popularity or his own happiness for them. He also helps save the world from a fairy-powered Crocker, the anti-fairies, the pixies, and the darkness. However, even with all this praise, we still have to acknowledge that he is selfish. He can be reckless and refuses to think about the consequences until he's forced to face them. He can also be mean, bratty, and insensitive, especially when he's annoyed or jealous. Even so, Timmy will correct himself when he realizes that he's gone too far, and we have seen him go above and beyond when it comes to making things right.
Suppose you rabid gators want your ball back, huh?
It may take him a bit to get there, but Timmy has a good heart. Alright, an immature and occasionally careless heart, but a good one. That's it for the good characters. Now it's time to descend into neutral territory. This is the gray area. Starting off this section is Ashi from Samurai Jack. Ashi was originally one of the daughters of Aku that were trained since birth to fight off Aku's greatest foe, Samurai Jack. Although Ashi was more curious and sensitive than her sisters, she too was turned into a heartless killing machine. After a bloody battle with a famous samurai, Ashi was the only one left standing, vowing that she would kill Jack once and for all. Even when the two were trapped in the belly of a giant monster, Ashi made things more difficult for Jack. She fought him off every chance she could, insulting him and singing the praises of Aku. Eventually, Ashi's stubbornness began to subside. She was able to open her eyes to see the truth, allowing her to realize that Jack was the hero while Aku was the ultimate evil. Later on, after Jack ran off in shame, Ashi tracked him down and stopped him from committing seppuku. She also protected Jack as he went on a spiritual journey to retrieve his magic sword. Although Ashi can be brutal and violent, it was nice to see her using her skills to fight for good instead of killing innocents. Unfortunately, because Ashi is a daughter of Aku, Aku was able to control her and use her to capture Jack. Thankfully, through the power of love, Ashi was able to break through this control and send Jack back to the past, saving the future and sacrificing herself through this action. While Season 5 of Samurai Jack was considered a mixed bag, it's no surprise that Ashi is considered by some to be the best part of this final season. From the planet of Balzaria 9, we have Biza from Wander Over Yonder. For a character like Biza, she was made for the neutral category. For the few appearances she has in the series, Biza hardly does anything. Though she cares for her people, Biza has become jaded and numb to the planets in their system getting destroyed by a giant dog. Even when she's acknowledging that they have no other planets to go to and that she and her people will likely die in the middle of space, Biza shrugs it off with acceptance.
This doomsday is moving along quite briskly.
Not even the idea of cannibalism amongst her people is enough to shake her. It takes Wander offering various plans for her to try any action that isn't just fleeing or accepting doom. Still, she is grateful to Wander for his help, so that's something. Biza only appears a couple of times after this, and she's just as passive. There isn't anything bad or evil about her. However, since she hardly ever takes action and is not doing anything good or heroic, we felt that we had to put her in the gray tier. Following her is Experiment 624, aka Angel. Although technically one of Stitch's cousins, being one of Jumba's many experimental creatures, she becomes Stitch's crush. It's awkward, but you know how Disney's all about that romance. Unfortunately, underneath this sweet face are not so sweet intentions. Like all of Jumba's other experiments, Angel has a special power. With a special musical neuro-linguistic behavioral modification trigger, she's able to turn people and other experiments evil by song. Throughout her debut episode, she turns Jumba and several experiments that had previously been made good back into evil. She tries to turn Stitch evil, although he's resistant to the song since he was created after her.
Her spell doesn't work on us, but we fell for her just the same.
Angel did all this because she was secretly working for Gantu. Later on, she helps Gantu capture Stitch, although she feels guilty afterward. In the end, Angel sings her song in reverse and turns all the experiments back to good, saving Stitch's life but getting herself captured. She didn't have the most noble introduction. However, considering she was created to be evil, just like Stitch and the other experiments, we can't completely blame Angel for her actions, as awful as they were. The fact that she can make a change on her own and redeem herself for Stitch's sake keeps her from being put any lower. Next is Truffles. In terms of the four main characters of Chowder, Truffles is definitely the most abrasive. Truffles is loud, cranky, and violent, often threatening the rest of the catering company's staff with a frying pan or rolling pin. She'll kill anyone who doesn't share gum with her, and she can be a sore loser, blaming others for her flaws or mistakes. But while Truffles has plenty of negative traits, we can't call her a villain. At the end of the day, she cares about her husband Mungdal, as well as their apprentice Chowder. This is especially true with her husband. While she may not always enjoy her husband's cooking, Truffles will still be the first to defend it if anyone else insults it. She's also willing to be kind. She handles the business side of the catering company with ease, being the most responsible when it comes to money. Although far from perfect, it's these more positive traits that keep Truffles from going any lower. Next, we have Mushi Sanban, number 3's little sister from Codenamed Kids Next Door. As far as younger siblings go, Mushi is complicated. For a time, it seemed like Mushi loved her older sister and encouraged this love with other siblings like number 5 and her older sister Kree. However, this starts to change when King Sandy comes into the picture. Although Sandy originally wanted to force number 3 into marriage, he falls for Mushi instead, and the two stay a couple for the rest of the series. Then, during a dinner party with number 2's family, Mushi stabbed her sister's new rainbow monkey doll with a fork to cover up her attempt to steal it. She did all this because she was annoyed at her sister for not sharing. Several episodes later, Mushi resurrects the doll with the help of Count Spankulot and sends it after number 2 as revenge. So this sweet little sister isn't so dear after all. However, we're not going to put her in the bad tier for 2 reasons. The first is that, other than maybe that last instance, Mushi never does anything too bad, at least compared to the other K&D villains, and even other siblings like Kree. Secondly, we have to remember that Mushi is only 5 years old. While we still think that she should be held accountable for acting out, we're willing to cut her just a bit of slack. Finishing off our neutral characters, we have Kilgore from My Life as a Teenage Robot. Although he's technically a villain, we can't bring ourselves to rank him as one, and not just because we think he's cute.
I am Kilgore, and I am here to destroy you.
Try as we might, Kilgore wants to be a villain and be praised by the robots of Cluster Prime. Unfortunately, due to his size and lack of any strength or powers, any attempts to do evil are minor annoyances. The only time he actually was a threat was when he rebuilt Armageddroid. However, while he denies it, Kilgore has the ability to do good when he feels like it. In his first appearance, he helps get rid of the cluster robots. In the aforementioned Armageddroid incident, he's willing to help Jenny defeat Armageddroid once he realizes how dangerous the giant robot is. Despite this, Kilgore still insists that he's a villain and refuses to give up evil.
One day soon, I shall seal your doom!
Although obviously misguided, we felt we still had to put him reasonably low on the list, since he's technically an antagonist. But with his non-threatening nature, lack of success in being evil, and willingness to help out the good guys, we're able to put him just on the edge of the gray tier. That wraps up the gray area. Time for the wicked and the villainous. These characters are the bad to evil. We're going to begin with the very bratty Kitten. Although a minor villain in Teen Titans, she was memorable. Being the daughter of Killer Moth and having access to his army of moths, Kitten used this power to force Robin into being her date to the junior prom. Keep in mind, she only wanted to do this because she wanted to make her boyfriend, Fang, jealous. In general, Kitten is a bratty, bossy, and spoiled girl. She puts other people in danger to get what she wants. Kitten is also very materialistic. She loves that Fang steals expensive jewelry for her, and decides to release the army of moths only after her dress was ruined. As awful as she is, though, Kitten is still an ordinary human girl. If not for her father being a supervillain, she wouldn't have been much of a threat. Taking into account the minor presence she had on the show, we felt we couldn't put her any lower. This isn't because of any redeeming qualities, but because everyone under her has done much more, and much worse. Up next, we have Terrence from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Although not competent enough to be a full-on villain, Terrence is still a bully. In fact, his constant bullying towards his brother Mac and his imaginary friend, Blue, caused Blue to get sent away at the beginning of the series. Although he'd need the help of people like Duchess to be an actual threat, Terrence can still be dangerous. Because of his support in Duchess's scheme, Blue was nearly eaten by an Extremizar in the first episode. Terrence once manipulated Eduardo to fight for him in the Extremisar battle circuit. Later in that episode, he locked Mac and the gang in a cage with a very dangerous imaginary friend that could have electrocuted them, if not for Eduardo saving the day. In another episode, Terrence lied to Mac about their family moving to Singapore because of Duchess. Then he manipulated the entire Foster's crew into fighting off Mac and Blue when they were trying to return Duchess. Simply put, Terrence is a huge, dumb jerk. Next, we're ranking DC superhero girls, Harley Quinn. Yeah, Tara Strong plays both Batgirl and Harley. Considering the two of them are BFFs in this incarnation, we're sure that Tara has to do a lot of talking to herself. Anyway, this Harley can be just as chaotic and violent as other versions of her. Having her own gang of teen villainesses by her side, she's often causing plenty of trouble both in and out of costume. They bash mailboxes, steal cars, and even try to blow up the bridge into Metropolis. As for her Harleen persona, she'll still play practical jokes and aggravate others. However, this is far from the most evil version of her. Without the Joker's direct influence over her, she thankfully doesn't cross as many lines with her crimes, though she does get pretty close. She tries multiple times to kill Robin after making fun of Barbara, and let's be clear, Harley was more than happy to murder this 12-year-old for the sake of her best friend. She only stopped when she realized that Barbara didn't want Robin to be killed. Common sense, but then again, this is Harley Quinn. Speaking of her relationship with Babs, although we're not sure what will happen when they eventually find out about each other's secret identities, we do know that the friendship they have now is genuine. So we're willing to bump Harley a couple of notches up for that. We also acknowledge that she still has a heart, even though she is wacky and violent. Just outside of our bottom three is Toot Braunstein. Being a spoof of Betty Boop, Toot has fallen from her glory days in the 1920s. From binge eating to alcoholism, threatening people with violence, Toot has a lot of issues.
I'm so fat! I'm disgusting!
She refuses to admit that she has any problems. She's prone to fits of rage and physical aggression, seemingly at random. Filling the role as the reality show antagonist, Toot intentionally tries to cause friction amongst the housemates for most of the first and second seasons. She also craves attention, which may contribute to her acting out so much and being so awful. Later in the series, Toot becomes more sympathetic as a lonely person and tries to be less spiteful after a while. However, she never really changes her behavior. Although we feel bad for her, we felt that we had to give her a fairly low ranking for all that she did in the show's earlier seasons. Earning our Bronze Medal of Evil is Ember McLean. Everyone loves Ember. Although she may have been defeated at the end of her debut episode, we're sure that no one is going to be forgetting her name anytime soon.
And the whole world's chanting my name!
With her hypnotic abilities, she's able to amass an army of fans from all over the world. Most of these fans were teenagers. Her influence made them rebel against their teachers and parents. Her powers go beyond turning teens into fanatics, however. She was able to mess with Danny's heart through a powerful love song, forcing him to fall in love with Sam and getting him out of the way for a while. Although she wants world domination, Ember is looking more for rock star status and adoration than any concrete power. Once she loses this status and no longer has people chanting her name, she becomes powerless. Still, Ember remains a threat when she teams up with characters like Captain Youngblood, Kitty, and another ghost we'll get to shortly. Ember's not only selfish but can be petty and can take insults to heart. We also have to mention that messing with the minds and hearts of innocent teenagers is cruel. World domination is also evil, even if Ember is more of a rocker than dictator. Although she may be a fan favorite, there's no denying that she is evil. The Silver Medal of Evil goes to Princess Clara from Drawn Together. Although she may seem like the perfect Disney-esque princess, Clara is anything but perfect. Growing up privileged, Clara looks down on those who aren't wealthy and is often insensitive to other cultures. She's also anti-Semitic, which is ironic since Tara Strong herself is Jewish. However, many of Clara's beliefs are more ignorant than malicious, and it's implied that they were ingrained into her at a young age. It's not an excuse, but it's a little more understandable. Outside of this, Clara is a caring person. Usually, she tries to make amends whenever she does something wrong. So yeah, it could be worse, right? Well, unfortunately, as the show goes on, Clara's darker side begins to come out. She becomes more hateful and starts pushing her evangelical beliefs, even at the risk of hurting or harming others. Then, beginning in Season 3, Clara begins to show little or no remorse for her awful behavior. At one point, she even goes on a murderous rampage after believing that the rapture happened and left her behind.
I sold my soul to the devil and devoted myself to committing sins.
It's a whole thing. Thankfully, after this point, Clara starts to improve and reverts back to her Season 1 persona. Although we're happy that she can improve somewhat before the end of the show, we really can't ignore all that Clara did before that. Getting our gold medal of evil is Penelope Spectra. Spectra makes it a habit of making people miserable, and then feeding on their misery to keep her human form looking young and beautiful, with the depression of teenagers being her favorite.
Teen misery is the nectar that keeps me looking fabulous.
This already makes her much crueler than someone like Ember. Ember may have been willing to mess with people's emotions, but it wasn't her goal to cause emotional harm. However, emotional harming is Spectra's MO, having no qualms with what is essentially emotionally and mentally abusing others for her own gain. The fact that she's doing this to teenagers just makes it even worse. As if she wasn't awful enough, Spectra planned on killing Jazz during the school assembly, so she can feed off of the students' severe depression over the event and be beautiful forever. Later on, Spectra returned and began collecting DNA from students to create the perfect human body to inhabit. And, as we mentioned before, she once teamed up with Kitty and Ember to get rid of all the males in Amity Park. Above all, Spectra is monstrously narcissistic and sadistic. She also possesses scary amount of intelligence when it comes to psychology and bringing out a person's biggest fears or deepest issues. Honestly, any one of the previously mentioned acts would make her an awful person. But all of them combined, there was really no denying who the most evil Tara Strong character was. Well, that's our morality scale. Now let's hand out our sinner medals. Getting the Darwin Medal is Terrence. There's a reason why Mac and Blue tend to call him a big fat doofus. As far as dumb teen boys go, he's as dumb as they come. For the Pride Medal, there's really no one else but Omi. He may be small, but his ego and pride in being a Xiaolin warrior is anything but. For another easy pick, we're giving the Gluttony Medal to Toot. The woman once ate a cell phone and a TV. She takes gluttony to the next level. We're also giving Toot the Lust Medal. Like we said, she's supposed to be like Betty Boop, and she certainly isn't shy about her advances. Moving on to the Wrath Medal, we selected Ashi. We're pretty sure she has the biggest body count out of all the Tara Strong characters, so we felt we had to give it to her. And as for the Greed Medal, we're giving it to Timmy Turner. While he maybe isn't greedy in the traditional sense, he does seem to wish for a lot of nice things for himself. Alright guys, that's the list. Let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.